Uh-oh, Texas just passed a bill to make the KKK the good guys,
This is fine.
says some headlines. Well, reality is a bit more complicated.
It's just different.
Hey, how's it going? The name's Token. I like anime, movies, and cartoons incidentally, and that has nothing to do with the story. I'm just mad my first YouTube video wasn't about what I actually wanted to make it about, but a phenomenon that is becoming more prevalent. Recently, you have seen headlines like Texas introduced a bill that drops the requirement of teaching the KKK is morally wrong. Bio golly, that do sure sounds like a ripe thing to get mad about in my very terrible Texas accent. Then of course you will find other headlines on the opposite side of the political spectrum that says stuff like media and politicians misled on Texas bill, which also may have you thinking, well, of course they did. We live in an era of clickbait titles. Let's start with an article from Fox News. By passing like the first 2/5 to like 3/5 of the article, which pretty much just talks about a bunch of complaints from the left, the author Lindsay Cornick states the Senate bill requires that teachers may not require or make part of a course inculcation in the concept that race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. Furthermore, teachers are barred from teaching that an individual should be discriminated against or receives adverse treatment solely or partly based on an individual's race or sex. Now, this does not sound like defending the KKK. In fact, much of the initial reading of the bill outlines important civil rights events that should be covered, including the 13th, 14th, and 19th Amendment, as well as the relationship between Texas and Mexico. All sounds good. So case closed, right? Democrats are just trying to spread outrage. Yes, but no. While the explicit passage showing Texas is trying to teach KKK and the white supremacy as possibly good is nowhere to be found in the passage of the bill, there is a passage that must be looked at to get an understanding of where some people may actually get this idea from. In this passage, actually under subsection H3, a teacher may not be compelled to discuss a particular event or widely debated and currently controversial issue of public policy or social affairs. 2. A teacher who chooses to discuss a topic described by subsection 1 shall, to the best of the teacher's ability, strive to explore the topic from a diverse and contending perspective without giving deference to any one perspective. So this passage means that a teacher is not to be forced or compelled or encouraged to discuss any topic that is considered controversial or debated. Now, given today's forum, those topics can range from literally anything. Race is now controversial to talk about, sexism, classism, certain economic philosophies. Furthermore, the passage states that teachers who do choose to teach these quote-unquote controversial topics should be compelled to teach with diverse and contending perspectives, which I think is a word salad way of trying to say both objective but also teaching on both sides. Now, reading these two passages, you can fall in two different minds. One, more likely left-leaning. Chances are you already believe that Texas is...
Hey, Patrick, what am I now?
Stupid?
No, I'm Texas.
What's the difference?
And with that as a foundation of your belief, the idea in this bill of giving the Texas education system a chance to determine which historical events outside the ones designated to be taught are considered controversial, as well as giving the both sides argument to these quote-unquote controversial events, can be wielded negatively. That there is some teacher out there that will utilize this in order to teach about something like the Tulsa massacre and essentially lean on the side of, well, it was the black people's fault. Now, if you're more right-leaning on the conservative side, you feel like Texas is a great state, And you feel like that this bill's opportunity gives the teachers more of a hold for themselves on what they are able to teach. But it also gives the students a chance to learn both sides, because we understand that regardless of how well we're taught, we still have our biases. So what's the lesson here?
It's time to learn the moral of today's story.
I guess first off, even though the word gets overused a lot, we must be aware of what we're biased towards. Pay attention to the biases. Like, what is the foundational understanding of what you're arguing for? Fox News feel like Texas is one of the best states in the union, so they are ready to defend them on whatever ideology is consistent with what they consider correct. Huffington Post felt like Texas was controversial, so a bill that gives a little bit more leeway and open definition could be utilized by Texas to be more controversial. Second, let's talk about these articles. So the increasing nature of clickbait titles and rage content isn't going anywhere. We love to consume it. We love to be offended because we keep clicking it. And we know the instant any headline hits, especially about the controversial topics, race, sex, class, that there are already two camps. And these headlines play against that. Regardless of what sides you listen to, Fox News, MSNBC, Breitbart, or the Washington Post, they all have a vested interest in selling you whatever you want to hear. Which means they don't have a vested interest in what's actually true. They want you to divide yourselves into Team Red and Team Blue, so eventually they can sell you t-shirts with Team Red and Team Blue. I mean, we even see it with these corporations, which we think are actually taking political sides, when really donating to political campaigns and stuff like that, putting up flags or stickers or post on social media, it's not moving the needle. But I will say this. Is there racism in America? Absolutely. Does that mean that the entire country itself was founded on racism? No. Does that mean that everything is racist? No. Same thing for classism and sexism. But I do believe that these systems exist. Still, racial systemic oppression, socioeconomic biases, educational biases. And I believe they exist because there's a market for them. Whatever you believe in, whatever you talk about, they're willing to sell something to you. And by keeping you divided, they can upsell you on really valueless things. Because no matter what color you are, there's no more important color than green. But finally, because I'm talking too much, I want to leave you with this. We all have our bias. Like it or not, objectivity is not natural to the human condition. I don't care where you studied from. I don't care how many books you read. I don't care what your experiences are. Humans are natural believers and communicators. Above objectivity. It's something that you have to be really diligent in working towards and working at. If we really, truly work together, like really got a chance to understand this is where it's actually coming from, this is where I'm at, this is what I think, then it's going to be really hard to sell us those red versus blue t-shirts. Also, take a break from social media and the internet. It's literal poison built to divide us and create a combination of echo chambers and just addiction, actually. Or maybe I'm just talking to myself. Anyway, I love you guys. I've been Token, and this is fine. Everything's fine.